Section 3 of Chapter 5 in Geometry. We're going to talk about theorems for parallel lines and midpoint theorems for triangles. So lots of crazy things to do here. So just start out by filling out our theorems. You're going to need this one if two lines are parallel, then the lines stay equidistant from each other. Okay, so then second theorem, if three or more parallel lines cut, I probably shouldn't say cat there, maybe I'll fix that, cut congruent segments on a transversal, then they are congruent segments on every transversal. So these are kind of wordy, I know that, but definitely worth it when it's all said and done. Theorem, the third one on your notes, a line contains a line that contains, excuse me, the midpoint of one side of a triangle and is parallel, oops, use a symbol there, shorten it up, parallel to another side goes through the midpoint of the third side. Again, very wordy, but totally worth it. A line that contains the midpoint of one side of a triangle and is parallel to another side goes through the midpoint of the third side. Finally, last one, the segment that joins the midpoint of two sides of a triangle is either A, parallel to the third side, and or B, half the length of this third side. Again, I know these are super wordy, but they're pretty simple and they work pretty well. So when I start looking at a figure like the one top right here, and I see M and T are midpoints to the sides, X, Y, Z, right? I can start thinking about how I have all these congruent segments and what I can do from there, right? So if I have XZ, which is this whole segment from here to here, right? Then MN, right? Considering it connects the midpoints and is parallel to that, should be half the length of that. So MN is going to be 5, right? So if ZX is given, just making sure we see that, right? And then we're talking about NM, and N and M are the midpoints of those two sides of the triangle. NM should be half the length of xz. So then the next one, we're looking at tn versus xy. Again, same idea, just double it. So I got a 14. And then we got zn tm. So if zn equals 8, then tm this side here, I'm trying to figure out a way I want to mark this. I actually wanted to change colors. Sorry about that. So if Zn, again, is 8, and then I'm worried about Tm here, right? Tm is half of all of Zy, but Zn is half of Zy, so this should just be 8, right? If that makes sense. Sorry, I was just trying to figure out how I should mark that. But lastly, xy equals k, right? So let me mark that one. Xy is down here. So then if I'm talking about Tn, remember Tn would be half of xy. So you just say half of k, right? That simple. So when I look at the next figure here, AR is parallel to BS is parallel to CT. So all of these are parallel lines, right? RS is congruent to ST. So if I know those two lines are congruent, those two segments are congruent, then these opposite segments would also be congruent. Because parallel lines, right? This is talking again about the if 3 or more parallel lines cut congruent segments on a transversal, then they are congruent segments on every transversal. So this was my first transversal over here. This is my second transversal over here. I should have congruent segments on each. Now that does not mean that this segment here is congruent to that segment. They just have to be congruent to other segments, right, on the line. So these two are congruent to each other, not opposite ones. And so if I get rid of some of those extraneous marks that I don't need, RS is 12, then ST would also have to be 12, right? Switch colors again. If AB is 8, then BC would also be 8, right? If AC is 20, so AC is this whole segment here, so that combined is 20, then AB would be half of that, and that'd be 10, right? And then AC equals 10x. Switch colors one more time. What have I not used? Maybe this color. So AC is 10x. BC would be half of that, right? BC right here. So then just cut that in half and it's 5x. So not actually supposed to be terribly difficult. When you jump into the worksheet, you just have to go for it. It's not as scary as you might think. So that's good for the notes. I'm probably going to do a practice set to help you out with a couple problems in the worksheet, but hopefully you can get going from here.